Hello, hi, welcome to another video. 3.2 is well on its way, and we have one of the most, probably the most controversial set of banners that we've seen in Wuthering Waves thus far. We have some great characters this patch. We have Sigrika, Cho Yuen, Lynae, Zani, and Phoebe. But there's a problem. We've just crossed over from having Imeth, Galbrenna, Luke, Lupa, and Chisa. Most people aren't going to have much savings in terms of asteroids for any of these characters. And we've now seen the drip marketing for Hiyuki and Denia, who both look to be meta-defying characters. So it really does beg the question, should you convene? Let's talk about it. So Sigrika is probably the most unfortunate release we've had ever in Wuthering Waves. She is sandwiched between very hype units, and she is also very, very specific. She's very, very strong, but she is very, very niche. So she's an echo damage dealer, but unlike Galbrenna, she purely focuses on echo skill damage. Now, we don't really have many supports for echo skill damage, which means that her teams are very, very limited. Her animations are amazing. Her combat is very, very powerful, but realistically, should anyone be pulling for her? In my opinion, unless you have Cho Yuen and you don't have Thea, then she is the perfect Aero DPS to pull at this point in time. One thing to note about Sigrika is that she is one of the best characters for Whimpering Wastes now. She doesn't outcrown Frolova, but she is up there as one of the best and probably will be quite high up on that list for quite a long time. So if you are looking to level up your account for Wiwa, then she is definitely a good option to go for. There is a good chance her team will get upgraded. I mean, I say a good chance, not really too sure on that. We've had Shorekeeper for a very long time now, but there is room for her team to improve. She will most likely require her 5-star premium weapon. The drop off from her 5-star compared to any other weapon is actually quite big, so take that into account when deciding if you're pulling her for meta reasons. Her damage is apparently roughly 5 to 10% stronger than C.R.Z at the moment, which is incredible because C.R.Z is still very, very strong. But as I said, she is very, very restricted. If you don't want Cho Yuen, or have no plans on pulling him, or already don't have him, then it's very hard to justify getting her. And again, if you already have C.R.Z, is there really a point in pulling her right now? If C.R.Z is only 10%, maybe 15% behind her, is it really worth you putting your asteroids into getting Sigrika when you can just go for more copies of C.R.Z, which will ultimately be cheaper? It's really hard to say, but I would advise new players, low spenders, free-to-plays to unfortunately skip Sigrika. Cho Yuen is basically one of the best, if not the best support for 2 top-tier teams currently. And with Sigrika's arrival, he now has a 3rd top-tier meta-relevant team going for him. So it's very hard to tell people not to pull for him, unless they never plan to have those 3 teams. So my advice would be, if you plan to play Galbrenna, Frolova, or Sigrika, then Cho Yuen is basically a must-pull. The only downside with Cho Yuen from my experience is that he can be frustrating to play because he can get knocked out of his forte repeatedly. You can invest in his S1, that will actually stop him being interrupted during it, so it's quite a popular resonance chain because of that. Because Cho Yuen's damage doesn't actually matter that much, you can actually settle for the standard 5-star weapon. That will kind of do the job and give you less requirements for building out the team fully. He is mostly there to buff your main damage dealer. The damage does help, the efficiency does help with his signature, but it's not a necessity. You can run the team successfully in endgame content without it. But other than that, his rotations are very fast, his animations are really cool. He is actually quite fun to play, and as I said, he is the best support for multiple top tier DPSs at the moment. So if you have the pulls, you're planning on building an echo damage team, or already have parts of it, then Cho Yuen's the one for you. Zani is a controversial character. He is very, very strong and has been for a very, very long time. However, the vast majority of the player base will never reach that level. Her animations are amazing, especially when she's in her ultimate form. her slashes in her ult form feel really, really good. Really, really clean. Really well animated character. However, she is not the easiest character to play for endgame content. A lot of players do find her quite sluggish outside of her ultimate form, and she does have a heavy reliance on having Phoebe in the team. The power difference between her having Phoebe and not having Phoebe is massive. It's probably the biggest difference between any premium team at the moment. She is quite an old character now. However, if you do get the full flagship team with Zani Phoebe, her damage is very, very high. Currently, I believe her damage is actually higher than Luke's best team currently, which is saying something, and I believe he can go even further than that if you learn the intricacies of quick swapping with her team. I think her vertical investment is good as well. You can vertical invest in Zani and Phoebe, so if you're planning on using this team long term, you can slowly buy copies through the shop with Afterglow Coral. The weapon choices aren't amazing. If you have Rochia's Gauntlet, then that is not too far off from her signature. I believe it's roughly about a 7 to 10% difference. So if you're one of the few players that actually have that weapon, then you can slap that on Zani and she will still do really well. However, after that, there is quite a big drop off in percent difference. So you do really want to try and get her signature. So just bear that in mind. One of the good things about Zani teams is that they either use Shorekeeper or Spectre Rover. Now, most, if not all players should have Shorekeeper at this point. But Rover is very, very good for her team. And the reason why it's actually a big positive that he is the best in slot for her team is because you're not really going to share that spot with any other team. Yes, you have Cartier teams that use Aero Rover over Chisa in some instances, but for the vast majority of your account, you're not going to have any overlap, which is a big, big plus because most of the end games require separate teams and have only very few uses. So keep that in mind. So if you are a casual player or a mobile player primarily, Zani probably isn't the one for you. I would advise if you have Phoebe or plan to get Phoebe and you really, really like Zani, then go for her. If not, if you just want a Spectre DPS, maybe think about someone like Luke or wait to see who's coming in the horizon. I think it's safe to say that Phoebe is one of the mascots of Wuthering Waves at this point. She has two main teams. She has Zani team, which she's sub DPS in, and she can main DPS as well. The main DPS variant is fairly strong on a casual standard swap team. It doesn't quite reach the level of the Zani teams and the other premium teams in the game, but it will get you through most of the content. Her issue though, however, is that she is quite limited. If you aren't in love with the character and you aren't planning to build Zani teams, she doesn't actually have that much value, unfortunately. If you plan to build a Zani team with Phoebe and you have none of the pieces, it might be worth starting with Phoebe and using her as a main DPS until you have enough pulls to get Zani. And meanwhile, you can actually learn the quick swap intricacies with her and Rover. If you are going to pull for Phoebe and you do not plan on ever getting Zani and you just want to play main DPS Phoebe, and you have either Yinlin, Cantarella, or Jeju's premium weapon, you do not need to go for Phoebe's signature weapon. That signature weapon is very good, but the difference between her sig and other rectifier signatures is about 10% difference. The power for her signature comes in when she plays sub DPS with Zani, because that provides Zani with even more damage. So it is quite important to the premium team. So bear that in mind when you're deciding to build the team comp. I have seen some people play Chisa Phoebe, I'm not sure how strong it is, but I imagine with Rover in the mix and quick swapping, I think you should be able to stack up quite a lot of Spectro Frazzle. So that is also another option. Similarly to Zani, Phoebe's resonance chain is actually worth building over time. Her copies actually improve both her DPS and her sub DPS. Of course, the sub DPS won't matter that much, but it will give your main DPS more power. So personally, I would prioritize Zani's resonance chain over Phoebe's, but in the end, if you're slowly building up the team and you want it to last as long as possible, you would ideally go for both. It is important to note that Phoebe has one of the best overworld exploration tools in the game. I really enjoy it. It's very, very fast, very useful. Highly recommend. She is quite easy to play, so if you are a mobile player and not planning on playing Zani teams, I think you should be okay to use her. She's very, very straightforward in terms of her inputs and how she works. It's only when you start to get in the quick swapping realm where things start to get a bit more difficult. So overall, Zani, Phoebe, great pick. They're for the sweats mostly though. If you're looking to pull them as a duo, then they are more or less still worth it. If you're not, however, then you're doing it more for a casual aesthetic reason. Now, Lynae is an easy one actually. She is currently the support that has the most value in the game. I don't think there's any other sub DPS or support that has more value than Lynae at the moment, and the reason being is because she can be near enough best in slot for multiple different DPS characters in the game. If you're interested in playing Zhang Liao, if you're interested in playing Calcaro, interested in playing Carlotta, if you're interested in playing Augusta, you know there are plenty of characters that people love to play still that Lynae kind of brings up to a standard that you need them to be at in order to complete endgame content. Lynae's signature boosts both her personal damage and the main DPS's damage on your team, so it is quite valuable. However, similarly to Cho Yuen, you can get away with not getting the signature right away. Lynae is quite a flexible character and she does do quite a lot of damage even as a sub DPS. So it is, as I said, it is a big improvement but not a complete necessity. Static Mist or the Homogenizer are good substitutes, so don't stress. I think getting her alone is more than enough for most accounts. We don't know what's on the horizon in terms of teams that she'll need to support, or tune break teams, or rupture or strain, but so far she seems to be in high demand. She is probably the most valuable character in Wuthering Waves at the moment. So if you're a newer player and you want a character that is powerful and able to support multiple different characters while you build a main flagship team, then she's the one to go for. My final piece of advice would be very cautious with any characters you put on Wuthering Waves. If you decide you want a character, be prepared to build their entire battleship. You want to be able to fully invest in a whole team so that it works seamlessly, so that you can clear content without any issues. And you also want to take into account if a team is mobile friendly, if it's casual friendly, if it requires quick swap, if it's just a straightforward rotation. All these things make a difference. Depending on what type of player you are will depend on the value of that team to you. And overall, have fun. Like, none of this means anything if you really enjoy a character. If you really love Zani and you don't like Phoebe, pull Zani. If that's how you're going to enjoy the game, then go for it. Also, we've now had drip marketing and an official leak of Hiyuki and Denia's ultimates. Now, it seems like they are being pushed quite a lot, so if you are not in dire need of any of the characters in 3.2, then my advice to most players is to wait for 3.3. I think from what we've seen, they're going to be meta-defining characters, and missing out on them could be a mistake. Anyway, I hope that helped. Please let me know what characters you decide to go for. Are you going for the new Aero DPS in Sigrika? Are you going back to finish your Zani team? Are you saving for Hyuki and Denia? Let me know your thoughts. I'm really interested to hear what everyone is going for. And on that note, I will catch you guys later. Adios.